Welcome back to the Mindful Presenter Truth Series. Truth 17, movement is energy. Movement is energy. It's visual stimulation. You'd be surprised how many people I work with. In fact, you'd struggle to believe or accept this, but I promise you it's true. I work with a vast number of people that when they're presenting, they don't move. What I mean by that is they don't move their hands, they don't move their eyes, they don't move their face, they don't move their body. They just don't move. They stand there rigid, like the corporate spokesperson, just a vocal piece. We have to move. Movement is energy, it's visual stimulation, because think of it like this. Every presentation is ultimately a story. I mean, life is a story, everything's a story. But anybody can tell a story. Anybody can just speak a story with varying levels of confidence and clarity. They're always the two prerequisites. But if anybody can tell a story, the challenge that most of us have is showing the story, connecting the story. And the best way I know to do that, as well as the verbal expression, is movement. Hand movement, facial movement, body movement. I'm not talking about excessive movement. I'm not talking about theatre or drama. I'm just talking about natural movement. For example, never, ever let anybody tell you not to move your hands or that you use your hands too much. I've never seen it. I don't believe it's possible. You see, our hands want to move. They need to move. You don't have to tell them what to do. You don't have to program them. You don't have to go off to RADA for 3 years to learn how to do all this kind of stuff. In fact, you just need to, I call it take the handcuffs off. A lot of presenters, you'll see in business, they'll present the whole time like this, or like this, or like this, or like this. And their hands can't speak. How do you connect with a fellow human being if you don't connect through physical energy as well? It's not impossible, but it's hard. It's really, really hard. I was working with a group once, a typical in-house workshop, 6 people in a corporate environment, and something really interesting happened, and it troubled me for a while. What happened was there was a young lady presenting. She was presenting early on a personal story, and she was a particularly gifted, stunning presenter. I mean, so captivating, verbally, non-verbally, the whole thing, apart from her hands. She stood the whole time like this. Her voice, her face, every essence, every fibre of her being was saying one thing, but her hands weren't connecting. And I found it incredibly strange. I wanted to be a bit sensitive with it because intuitively I sensed that there was something amiss, something wrong. So in the break, I took her to one side and I gave her the compliment of telling her that she was an incredible presenter, natural storyteller, I called her. But I said I was fascinated, intrigued by the fact that she didn't move her hands when it seemed to me that her hands wanted to speak, but they weren't. So it's a bit of a paradox. And she opened up to me that she wasn't surprised, but here's what happened. She said she was glad that I noticed because she really, really wanted to use her hands. And up until an experience a few months previously, she had always spoken with her hands. But what happened was she told me that she'd been to a Toastmasters workshop on one occasion. Now, I have a lot of respect and time for Toastmasters. They're a fabulous organisation doing some incredible work. But something went wrong on this occasion. Don't ask me why or how. But this lady said to me that somebody on that evening in Toastmasters told her that she uses her hands too much. And she would be a much better place by just standing like this. So she did that for months. Every time she spoke, she stood like this. It didn't work for her. Intuitively, I sensed that it was wrong. So I asked her, I pleaded with her, that just for the purpose of the workshop, for the rest of the day, just forget, just ignore what somebody had done a huge disservice, of telling her at Toastmasters, and to let her hands speak. She was pretty pleased at the opportunity, and she did for the rest of the day. And it was a joy. Movement is energy, it's visual stimulation. Not just our hands, but our body as well. Imagine you're giving a business presentation and you're talking about the future. Step into the future. So this time next year, Can you imagine? You can take people to a place. Or this time 3 months ago, you could step back. There are all sorts of things you can do. Try to avoid this. I see a lot of presenters do this. Predominantly, although not exclusively, ladies, females. Some guys do it as well, but probably from my experience about 80-20 females would do this. When they're presenting, particularly in business, they'll stand like this. Hopefully you can see me. They'll have their legs crossed. When I ask them why, the response that I normally get is one of two things. They'll either say, oh, sorry, I didn't realise, or they'll say, this is comfortable. How can this be comfortable? I haven't even got heels on and I find it really uncomfortable. But I have to respect what they say. But then I have to play back to them a view that it's not about the way they feel, it's the way they make their audience feel. If you stand like that, the first thing that's going to happen is you're stifling movement. You cannot move, you're going to fall over. That's an issue. The second thing is, some people will look at the way you're standing, and we're all different, we'll all see different things. Some people will see that as arguably you being closed off, instead of with your arms, with your feet. Some people may think, oh my word, he or she needs to go to the toilet. It's that kind of stuff. So we have to be free. We have to be free to move. Movement truly is energy. It's visual stimulation. Don't let anybody tell you to stand still or keep your hands in your pocket. It doesn't work. Keep moving. Thank you.